Ian Carver was a student of silence, a voyeur of vicissitudes. His voice, if ever used, was gentle, a low baritone that did not demand, but rather requested your attention. His apartment, nestled in the throbbing heart of Chicago, was a haven of tranquility amidst the tumultuous whirl of urban cacophony. A smattering of old newspaper clippings and dog-eared books littered his abode, each a testament to his generous dedication to the craft of truth. One evening, as a pot of coffee sent tendrils of steam twirling up towards his ceiling, the untouched mug bore witness to the arrival of a missive, an email encrypted with the urgency of unvoiced whispers. Rockford, Illinois, a town whose normalcy was a quiet facade shrouding an ominous secret. The following morning, as the sleepy sun traced lazy patterns on the aging linoleum of his kitchen, Ian boarded a bus to Rockford. His heart was heavy with the same resolve that had seen him through countless assignments before. Rockford unfurled before him like a painting dipped in sepia. Suburban homes with perfectly manicured lawns were stitched together by sun-dappled streets. Yet beneath the idyllic veneer, he detected the undertones of a silent symphony of unease. At the Rockford Public Library, he met with Mrs. Avery, the town's elderly librarian. Her kind eyes bore centuries, and her voice was a dusty lullaby. "Ian, dear, Rockford isn't just the white picket fences you see. We have our secrets too," she mused, thumbing through a ledger of the town's archival records. His conversation with Mrs. Avery, though shrouded in the mundane, hinted at hidden layers of deceit. He recorded it all, the softness of her voice, the slight tremble in her hands, the fleeting look of trepidation in her eyes. Each was a piece of the puzzle he had yet to comprehend. The following days were a whirlwind of murmured conversations, faceless bureaucrats, and labyrinthine paperwork. The more he delved, the more he felt ensnared within an invisible web of evasive answers, redacted documents, and vague references to government-funded biological experiments. One night, over the soft hum of his motel room heater, he interviewed Pete, a grizzled sewer worker. Pete was a gnarled knot of a man, his face etched with lines drawn by years of toil, and his eyes reflecting the glint of hidden knowledge. "Them sewers, Mr. Carver," Pete began, his voice as grating as rusted metal. "They ain't what they seem. You spend enough time down there, you begin to feel it. You begin to sense it." Ian's heart thrummed in his chest as Pete's cryptic words sank in. His gaze fell on his notepad, ink-stained and filled with haphazard jottings. With an odd mix of trepidation and curiosity, he realized his investigation had taken an unexpected and macabre turn. The sewer, the town's rusted arteries, was where the truth, horrific and profound, pulsed, unseen and unheard. And it was here he would venture next. The sewer entrance was a gnarled maw, its yawning darkness threatening to consume the light, the air, and the man who dared to approach it. Ian, standing at the threshold, looked at his reflection in the stagnant puddle at his feet, a man waiting in the liminal space between ignorance and revelation. Under Pete's begrudging guidance, they ventured into the bowels of Rockford. The claustrophobic tunnels echoed with the dull roar of unseen rivers of waste, the air heavy with a cloying mix of damp earth and something more potent, more primal. Pete navigated the labyrinthine catacombs with an uncanny ease, the glow of his flashlight dancing on the slick stone walls. Their conversations were sparse, consisting mostly of Pete's vague warnings of hidden dangers, his voice often swallowed by the sewer's eerie echoes. Within the tunnel's belly, Ian found evidence of something unspeakable. A gnawed bone, human-like, discarded like an afterthought, was the first grim harbinger of the macabre truth. He dismissed it as the detritus left behind by an opportunistic rat, but the chill that crept into his bones was harder to ignore. Days turned into weeks, each new venture into the underworld unearthing more unsettling findings. Human clothing, tools smeared with a dark dried substance, and enigmatic symbols etched on the stone walls. Each piece of evidence felt like an abyss gazing back at him. One evening, after resurfacing from the sewers, he encountered Maggie, a young woman from the town, in the motel lobby. Her cheery demeanor stood in stark contrast to the unsettling underbelly of Rockford he had been probing. Yet, as they spoke over the murmurs of the motel TV, he detected an underlying tremor in her laughter, a shadow in her gaze. "Maggie, is there something you're not telling me?" he ventured, seeking to understand the undercurrent of fear that tainted her joviality. She hesitated, her gaze shifting uneasily. "It's just that there are stories, Mr. Carver. Stories about those who wander off the path and into the darkness." Her cryptic words resonated with what he had been uncovering, filling him with a chilling certainty. The bizarre rumors, the grim remnants he'd found in the sewer, they were all pieces of a puzzle, hinting at a nefarious picture. As he laid in bed later that night, the moon a pallid specter in the sky, he traced the outlines of this disturbing revelation. It was more than a story about a town plagued by rumors of bioweapons. It was a narrative of darkness hiding in the heart of the mundane, a sinister secret gnawing at the town's foundation. The midnight sky was a rich tapestry of dark indigo when Ian found himself outside the nondescript building. Behind its austere brick facade, as Maggie had hesitantly revealed, lay the domain of the Eaton Sun cult. The name clung to his mind, its insidious implications throbbing like a wound. He remembered the symbols in the sewer, the half-eaten bone, the fearful glances of Rockford's residents, all coalescing into a sinister truth. This cult was the cancer gnawing at the town's heart. Within the building's hushed confines, he witnessed a congregation soaked in the sickly yellow glow of candlelight. Their faces, familiar and unfamiliar alike, were twisted masks of fervor. He recognized the town's mayor, the school principal, even kindly Mrs. Avery. Their common humanity surrendered to some monstrous hunger. The cult leader, an imposing figure shrouded in a cloak, stood at the center, reciting an unintelligible liturgy in a voice that seemed to echo from the deepest pits of the cosmos. The congregation replied in kind, their collective voice a haunting chorus that sent icy tendrils of dread crawling up his spine. His journalistic instincts screamed at him to flee, to expose this horrifying truth to the world. But something held him rooted to the spot, an insatiable curiosity, the journalist's curse. The service culminated in a grotesque ritual. A shrouded figure was led forward, their identity obscured, their fate unknown. The congregation's chant crescendoed into a maddening roar as the leader raised a ceremonial knife. Ian's stomach churned, his blood freezing in his veins. He was caught in the throes of an ancient horror, its magnitude dwarfing human comprehension. Later, back at the motel, he sat hunched over his notes, his hands trembling. He couldn't shake the images of the ritual from his mind. They clung to his psyche like parasites, slowly eroding his sanity. His prior understanding of the universe was crumbling, replaced with the horrifying truth of an ancient, cannibalistic cult thriving in the underbelly of an ordinary town. The trauma of his past surged forth, intertwining with his present terror. The death of his parents, a cruel act of human malice, mirrored the cult's unspeakable practices. He was left wondering, was this the world he had vowed to change, to make better? Yet even as despair gnawed at his heart, he resolved to expose the cult and save Rockford. However, he realized the odds were against him. He was a stranger in a town enslaved by a monstrous deity, ensnared in a web of horror that promised to consume him. His resolve hardened. He must escape, but the road to freedom was as labyrinthine and treacherous as the sewers themselves. The pallor of dawn had not yet stained the sky when Ian set his plan into motion. His escape from Rockford, a silent sprint through the sleeping town, was a desperate flight from the unfolding nightmare. His heart pounded like a frantic drum as he navigated the labyrinthine streets, guided by the sickly glow of street lamps. Behind him, the town lay dormant, a cocoon nurturing the grotesque metamorphosis of its inhabitants. The sewers beckoned him once more. It was a reluctant reunion, a forced pilgrimage into the bowels of terror. His passage was a nauseating blend of fear and desperation, echoing through the dank tunnels. His only companion was the gurgling sewer river, its dark secrets now starkly visible to him. He moved as quietly as the shrieking silence would allow, his mind keenly aware of the monstrous presence lurking within the town above. They were the Eaton's son, basking in the eldritch radiance of their god, their appetite omniscient and unyielding. Suddenly, his escape was foiled by a disquieting noise, a cacophonous blend of chants and screams echoing through the tunnels. His heart thudded in his chest, a deafening rhythm against the backdrop of impending doom. Guided by an instinctual drive for survival, he plunged deeper into the labyrinth, the pursuit of an ever-present dread at his heels. His path was a blur of dank stones and inky black water, punctuated by the gnawing certainty that the pursuit was closing in. At last, he surfaced, emerging into the open airs like a man reborn. His body was a symphony of aches, his mind a battlefield of terror, but he was free. Yet, as he collapsed on the outskirts of Rockford, the dawn light illuminating the path to salvation, he knew his escape was a hollow victory. He was a changed man. The world he had aspired to improve was tainted with a shade of cosmic horror that gnawed at the edges of his sanity. His past trauma echoed the present, and the line between the personal and the cosmic blurred, leaving him caught in a web of infinite dread. In the days that followed, he would walk in a world bathed in the gloom of the unknowable, his existence now marked by the knowledge of a reality too grotesque to share. Ian Carver, the seasoned journalist, had transformed into a silent harbinger of cosmic horror, forever haunted by the chilling memory of Rockford. His story ended not in a triumphant climax, but in the eerie calm of a dawn marred by the stains of a dread that lay beyond comprehension. The echo of the Eaton sun would forever reverberate in his being, a pulsating reminder of the true depths of human darkness. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed our content, show your support with a like and subscribe, and stay notified by hitting the bell icon. Expect more cosmic horror from Eldritch Tales Factory, and feel free to explore our other stories. See you in the next video.